Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where we proudly provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to another fabulous episode of The Business Show. We have a fabulous guest who is joining us today, but before we get to those introductions, let me bring out my co-host and dear friend, Mr. Al Cini. We have been working together in television since 2019, and he keeps me on my toes with the latest and greatest of what is going on in the media world. Welcome to the program, Mr. Cini. Hello.
Dr. Jacalyn, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, and I am really looking forward to this interview with David.
I am too. So let's get right into it. So as I mentioned, we have a really fabulous guest who's joining us today, and his name is David Nicholson, and I actually had the pleasure of meeting him through the Chief Strategy Officer program at the Wharton School of Business. David works at the Center of Artificial Intelligence, Capital, and Enterprise Decision Making, and he is with us today to help us get a different perspective, his perspective, when it comes to everything and anything within 30 minutes, let's be real, for business owners to stay relevant. He sees multiple sides of things through his executive leadership, and he also is frequently seen on the major networks where he is asked to provide his area of expertise. So without further ado, let us welcome to the program, Mr. David Nicholson. Hello, sir.
Hello. Good to see both of you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And thanks for getting up at dark early to be with us today from the West Coast.
It's fine. It's fine. And as I said a little earlier, my voice is worn in from the NVIDIA conference this week. It's not about getting up early. Once a paper boy, always a paper boy. So this isn't that early.
That's pretty impressive. Great.
That's very impressive. Well, David, I know that there are many topics we can talk about today. And for our audience who's joining us for the first time, there's no script. So Al and I don't know what we're going to be asking. David doesn't know what we're going to be asking, and no one knows where this is going to go. But I want to start off first with AI, with artificial intelligence. And the reason I want to is because we hear so much about it. And as a business owner, I know that AI is moving very quickly and advancing. And some companies are not actually embracing it. They're actually saying, no, I'm taking a step back. So where are you, David, seeing that this gap that's created, and it's the risk for leadership teams not embracing AI?
I think there are a lot of things that go into what might cause hesitation. And a lot of those things are very, very rational. So let's not condemn the cautious among us. But I think part of it stems from what we've taught business leaders over the decades. And the typical admonition from a business school would be, first, find the business problem you seek to solve before you start talking about any kind of tool, whether it's a tool, an IT information technology tool, or any other tool. First, define the problem. And so I think that's gotten in the way of some of AI deployments, because I would say that especially in the age of AI, you have to be exposed to the tools to broaden your imagination so that you can possibly think of the kinds of solutions that you might solve. And the way that I describe this, if I told you that you had a gift of 10,000 acres of land and you said, thank you. And I asked you then, well, what are you going to do with this land? And the only tools you're familiar with are shovels and little garden trowels. You might have very, very modest plans for what you could do with that land. But if I said, wait, hold your answer, and then showed you a Caterpillar D9 earth mover plowing a road through a hillside, you might go, now that I know that that thing exists, even though I don't know whether it's a machine or an animal, I don't need to know anything about how it works, but I know that it can do things. Now my idea for what I might do with my land is completely different. So there's a lack of certain amount of technical training among executives that has to happen so they'll feel more comfortable with things coming down the line. So that's sort of my first shot across the bow answer.
That's great. David, I want to talk about Futurum at some point this morning. I want to make sure I find out, or we all get to hear what you learned at the NVIDIA conference too, because that sounds exciting. And NVIDIA's right on the cutting edge of all this from a hardware point of view.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, for people that are watching the program and know that they need to get to know AI, but just don't know where to jump in, there are a couple of entry points. I can go with ChatGPT, or I can go with Grok, or how does a business owner make a decision which platform to pursue? Maybe you can help with some guidance on that.
Yeah. Usually the first question I would ask would be, what suite of business productivity tools are you using now? And people, oh, what do you mean? Are you a Google shop, or are you a Microsoft shop? Do you use Word, or do you use Docs? And if you've already standardized kind of a core of business productivity tools, then I would say first step in a business is going to be use the Copilot that's included with Microsoft Office. Whatever G Suite is called now, it's got Gemini. So those are great entry points because they are already integrated with tools that you're already using. And then off to the side, I would say, yes, pick either Claude from Anthropic or ChatGPT from OpenAI and sit down in front of your TV. And hopefully you have YouTube on your TV and watch some YouTube videos on how to get started and dive right in. And the key is this stuff is moving so quickly that we really don't have, we can't pretend that we're going to learn completely how these systems work. The best thing we can do is play with them every day. So start path of least resistance, add one of these purpose-built platforms, watch some YouTube videos and play every day. That would be that's the prescription.
I think that's great advice.
That's really helpful. Thank you. David, I want to bring up your website, which we have here now for the audience. And one of the things that really drew me in is the future of decision intelligence is here. Static reports can't keep up with how fast markets, competitors, and buyers change. And to me, I think this is really key and pivotal because I think I've done over 10,000 interviews. I interview a lot of business owners. And what they'll say is, you know what? We're doing fairly well. We're happy with where we are. We're making good revenue. And meanwhile, someone's coming from behind and is going to displace them, going to knock them out of the field. So the word static to me also seems like stuck. So what are some recommendations that you can make for business owners who are watching this now, who feel like, you know, we've got everything that we need. We're doing it the same way we've been doing it. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah. That's funny. Honing in on static. That's really good because that actually captures a huge part of what we believe differentiates us at Futurum. And so this next part is obviously with a huge amount of bias because I have a business partner, or 100 in this that I consider to be family. Essentially what we're doing at Futurum is we're taking advantage of the fact that we're small enough to be agile, and we have a ton of expertise in the field of AI that we're bringing to bear to move forward an industry that is really, really tough to move forward because of the size of the main entrants in the category. And I'm talking about Gartner, IDC, Forrester, companies like that. We have the ability to get in and completely change around our business model on the fly with AI so that the information that our clients are getting is hot off of the presses. So we have an unfair advantage because of our small size. Let's put it that way.
Oh, thank you for that.
That's
Yeah,
actually, I was going to say that's actually an interesting angle to approach. There are some people watching our program who are who are part of a large corporation. That there are other people who are watching our program that are part of a small business, maybe even solopreneurs that are watching the program.
Yeah.
You don't need to be huge in order to use this technology. You could just be a one-off individual contributor inside of a company, or a solopreneur, single person practitioner to use this. And the cost of entry is only about $20 a month. Do I have that right? I mean, it's per account.
Yeah. I'd quickly get to the $200 a month level. I think I could.
Okay.
I think give me a week of playing with it with you, and I'll convince you to do the $200 level. Yeah, and I don't mean you specifically, but anyone, because it's so powerful. It's very, very easy to rationalize that next step. But yeah, you mentioned solopreneur. I've tried mightily by posting and saying everywhere. I've tried to get the term solo corn to be adopted and attributed to me. Maybe someone else has used solo corn, but yeah, we're on the dawn of, we're at the edge of an individual solopreneur creating $1 billion, having $1 billion valuation assigned to what they've built. And they're the only biological human that's part of the company. They're doing this with purely agentic AI and themselves. So I think everyone accepts that in the next couple of years, we're going to see that, the one individual with $1 billion valuation. But whether you're at a large company or you are an individual, the barrier to entry, as you say, has never been lower, and the ability to scale has never been greater. So it's always a double-edged sword. The tools that represent the greatest opportunity for very large companies also represent a threat. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, people started to realize that, wait a minute, some of this agentic AI stuff really works. I think it was a discussion around OpenClaw specifically. And the stock market declared that software as a service is dead, because now these tools exist where I can go in and I can engineer my own Salesforce. That's an absurd assertion at this point. No one is going to do that. SaaS companies have access to these tools themselves. If they deploy them effectively, they're going to make themselves that much better. So they can defend and go on offense by using the very same tools that someone like my small company would use to go out and disrupt them. So it's a bit of a immovable object meets irresistible force at the frontier.
Thank you, David. And I'm wondering, as Chief Advisor and Senior Fellow at Futurum, when we go to your website, which by the way is futurumgroup.com, we can see here some huge names of companies that your organization has and is working with. So for the small business owner out there, they might see this and they might say, okay, well, I'm not a Salesforce, for example, or I'm not a Samsung, but there are absolutely ways for a company to go from where they are today to growing into a larger firm, or from what I learned from Wharton. And I hope I get this right, Horizon 1, 2, or 3 opportunities. So can you talk a little bit about that, about how someone who has vision for the future and wants to grow their business can work with an organization like yours to incorporate things that some of the big companies are doing? Yeah.
So you can't fault us for putting the larger examples up. They're aspirational for a small company in a way, but we do a lot of business with much, much, much smaller companies, especially startups in the space that are seeking to have their voice heard. Our founder and CEO Daniel Newman is arguably the #1 kind of traditional analyst in the tech world. he goes back and forth with one of our business partners, Patrick Moorhead. They go back and forth being number one or number two in the English speaking world. And so we have a long history individually within the company and as a company working with, like you said, the biggest organizations in the world, largely around the area of information technology. So the biggest IT companies. But the messaging coming out of the smaller companies today is equally as important. It's okay as a company to have your bread and butter be very large clients, but most of what we do is with smaller emerging companies. So not an issue there. And again, it goes back to what Al was talking about. Barrier to entry is very, very low. We may have a team of a dozen folks that are working on our Futurum intelligence platform, constantly tweaking and tuning and tuning and tuning. And that delivers value that the biggest companies in the world take advantage of.
That's, these are great insights, David. And I'm sharing my own experience with artificial intelligence. I started out asking Google questions like, do you have a recipe for fettuccine Alfredo, which is kind of a favorite of mine. But then gradually you learn that AI, as it interacts with you, is learning who you are and what you're trying to do. And it's remarkable at understanding what you're saying, and really very insightful with respect to where you tell it you're trying to go. And it works really hard to try to help you get there. And I don't think an awful lot of people, I think, that are hesitating on the threshold of AI don't really understand that this is a partnership. It's not a user relationship. It's more of a partner relationship with AI. And maybe you can talk a little bit about not just stepping over the threshold into AI, but jumping in head first.
Sure. Yeah. So we mentioned leverage what's already in front of you with your business suite of tools. And then add that platform to the mix and maybe watch some YouTube videos. The next step in this process is to realize something that's very, very critical. The difference between information that's retrieved, in other words, I searched for it, I asked for it, and it gave it to me, and information that's being generated or made up. And it's worth diving into that a little offline. We don't have to go into that here. But when we say AI today, we're referring to large language models that are generating information. And the reason why that's important to understand is it might sound like it's accurate, but sometimes it's not. So you always have to check. And most of these models are now seamlessly integrating retrieval. Think of it as phone a friend for artificial intelligence. Hey, did I get this right? Hey, can I double check with you? Hey, my information from my training ends 3 months ago. What happened 10 minutes ago? So that the way that retrieval and generation, making stuff up, looking stuff up, interacts is something that people need to understand, because it'll make them comfortable taking the next step. And you mentioned the idea of the model becoming more powerful as it learns about you. You have complete control over that. What you'll experience directly is something we call the context window. It's basically the short-term memory of the chatbot you're working with. And it can only remember so much. And depending upon how much you go back and forth, that will span a certain amount of time. But eventually, it can't get any more information about you, and it will start forgetting some of the earlier things that you've told it about you, as it should. Because you're not permanently training a model. It's not permanently understanding anything about you. It's always temporarily ingesting information that it already has. So you can just work with I'm talking to it. Eventually it's going to forget the things that I'm saying. Level 2, though, is understanding how you can go into a model and tell it, okay, when I'm talking to you from the perspective of my professional life, I want you to answer based on all of this information I'm going to load into this folder about what I do, so that you can give me more, you can be more helpful to me. On the other hand, in my personal life, I have other information that I'd like to share in the middle of a conversation. And when you share that, it's not permanently shared. It's just, okay, when I ask you a question, I want you to look at it from a personal perspective as opposed to a professional perspective. That level of tuning is really easy to do. In the Anthropic world, the Claude world, they rolled out kind of the earliest best version of this called projects, but they all do this now. A project is a specific perspective that you want the model to use when they're answering a query. And so all of that is in the realm of having them help you with information. You ask a question, you get an answer. The next level is what everyone is talking about now, which is having these models work on your behalf as an agent, agentic AI, to actually go do things for you. And that's where it becomes really, really powerful. And we can talk about that. Imagine these things as not just clever search engines. That's not what they are. Imagine that you now have access to the equivalent of the best personal assistant that only kings and presidents used to be able to afford. Now everyone can have one of these assistants in their lives with agentic AI moving forward. So that's sort of the next step, is learning to tune so that you're getting the most out of interacting with these models.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you very much. I feel like I'm having a full-blown relationship with my AI at ChatGPT because I'm checking in with it constantly. And it makes a lot of mistakes, by the way. And instead of it taking ownership, it just says, let's not dwell on that. I'm like, no, I was applying for trademarks and you told me select this category, do this, do that. And it was declined. And so now, so it is interesting, but it's, I guess it's a give and take and it's a learning process. And obviously it's cutting time in so many areas. But my next question is, when it comes to knowledge and education, you are a success coach, you were a professor at Wharton, which is one of the top, if not the top school in the country when it comes to business. And I'm wondering, how has AI impacted education? And in the way that it has impacted it, who now would you say is the most beneficial customer of advanced education?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, very important stipulation. I'm not a professor. At best, I'm described as an instructor. So no PhD. I'm part-time with Wharton. And important distinction. I work with my partners in these programs who are actual full-time tenured faculty. And it's an important distinction to make. But I would say, kind of jumping to the end of your question, the really the best candidates right now are the folks that go into these executive education programs. I became part of this whole world 5 years ago, sort of through happenstance. A private equity company that I was doing some advisory work for introduced me to a professor that was on the board of one of their companies. He invited me to come and speak in his class, and one thing leads to another. And now 5 years on, I think there are about 2,500 alumni that have gone through the programs that I've worked in. And I came into it very skeptical about, what can academics teach me? I'm a 30+ year professional at the cutting edge of these things. They're teaching people 3.0. I'm inventing 5.0 right now. And so I came in with a bit of a chip on my shoulder. And at this stage of the game, I would liken it to, I think we're all old enough to remember a time when, if you asked a friend, so where did you meet this person that you are now spending so much time with? If they told you online, you'd be like, are they some sort of professional? And whereas now most people form personal relationships through dating apps. I think that some executive education had a bad rap in decades past. It was, did you go to Harvard or did you get an executive MBA from Harvard? And it was sort of looked down on, was it the real MBA or the executive MBA? Boy, it's not like that anymore, because there's no such thing as learning about large language models and AI and how to make money and save money with AI today. No one learned that 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So the people that are in these programs are CIOs and CTOs of the biggest organizations in the world. So the funny thing is, I don't think that younger people have that bias that I might have against it. Like, what is this? But they come in and they find that they're getting incredible experience from networking with folks who are leaders in this space. I kind of look at it as it's table stakes at this point. If you're not involved with a program, understanding how to leverage the best that technology has to offer in your business, someone in your business has got to be doing that. And I think by default, they need to be pursuing serious continuing education on the subject. Absolutely. Can you do it on your own? Yeah, you absolutely could. You could literally do it with stuff on the internet, YouTube videos, all sorts of stuff. You could, but boy, is it a lot easier when you're with a bunch of peers who are facing the same challenges in different stovepipes of businesses and sharing that journey. So I would say people with only 5 years of experience out in the workplace need not apply to these programs. The average tenure of students is more like 20 years in these programs. It's really remarkable. But I have become almost religiously zealous about my support of these programs because I've watched these programs transform people's careers and lives over the last 5 years. A little bit of a plug for Wharton.
I think that's a really good point, but you're also making another point that I think is really valid. This is not egghead territory. You don't need to have a PhD to use artificial intelligence. You can walk into AI at any level of education if you've got an open mind and come and approach it from a point of view of curiosity rather than, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's something anybody could explore. Yes. And gain benefit from. And there's no reason why you'd want to hold back, no matter what kind of company you own, no matter what kind of business you're in. There are things you can learn from interacting with AI that could show you new directions for your trucking company or your healthcare company or whatever. And it would be a shame if your competitors were doing that and you weren't.
Yeah, that's a good fear, uncertainty, and doubt is always a great sales tool, Al. I love it. I love it. You
definitely want to overcome that. But maybe you can tell us a little bit. What did you pick up at the NVIDIA conference?
So, oh geez. Well, I'll tell you, it's always in the side conversations that happen outside of the keynotes and things like that you kind of get an interesting vibe. And the one thing that I'm sort of unpacking, I'm doing post-processing in my mind on it, is various voices that I heard saying things that all indicate that our supply chain for the stuff we need to actually leverage these tools for AI is at best fraught with potholes and friction right now. And at worst, it's completely broken. So I heard all sorts of anecdotes about people having tens of megawatts worth, in other words, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of very expensive GPUs sitting on their loading dock because they don't have the power to turn them on, because they haven't been able to get the power allocated for a data center. So there's a mismatch in terms of when people are able to get their hands on the things that they need and getting all of those things they need working together so they can turn the light switch on and get rolling. Another example, servers being ordered and shipped that don't have memory in them. But the company says, the end user company says, well, we need this hardware. And if we don't order it, even though the memory is not available, it'll take longer. So let's just order this stuff now and we'll wait until the memory is available. But they don't know when the memory will be available. Again, another example of the results being reported to Wall Street indicate, hey, I sold these things. Great. Buyer, did you buy those things? Yes, I did. But they're not able to get value out of them yet. The third part was this struggle that hyperscale cloud providers, where a lot of this equipment is based, a struggle they're having, which is when demand exceeds supply, the first thing you do is you break out your business calculus and you try to figure out how to ride the demand curve. In other words, well, guess what, folks? We need to start charging some of you more until there isn't a person who will tolerate the $1 billion price tag for the last one we have available. We want exactly 99.99999% of our stuff to be utilized, but we don't want it to all be utilized because that means we're leaving money on the table. So now you start talking about demand-based pricing and all this arbitrage stuff going on. So the market becomes chaotic. Accounting processes for the CapEx versus OpEx on AI become confusing. So back to the top of our discussion, a lot of folks are hamstrung by that because they can't get everything into a flow that allows them to get the value out of AI. And I think that's going to be the case for kind of now through the end of the year. We're going to see amazing things happen, but it won't be probably until next year that things really get unleashed when supply chains are smoothed out. So that's the main ethos.
Got it.
That I got.
It's a matter of national policy. I know we lose you in about 1 minute. You've got another meeting to go to. But Dr. Jacalyn, did you want to try to squeeze something else in with this brilliant man?
I just wanted to say, I know you are a regular guest on top media channels like Schwab, CNBC, Bloomberg, et cetera, et cetera. And we actually have a clip from one of your most recent interviews, which we'll be sharing. But what is it about you that makes you in such demand that people are like, we've got to get him on our platform? I mean, I could go through a lot of lists, but what are the things that people usually bring you in for if you're interested, people out there who are watching, you have a platform, and what would you be most willing to talk about on platforms if people are interested in bringing you on, David?
Yeah, broadly, I would say that I've, if I have a superpower, if I have a comparative advantage in the market, it's the ability to take very, very complex ideas, tease out the business value. Understanding is a great start. Understanding what 95% of this stuff doesn't matter to regular humans is sort of my secret sauce. So whether it's, I do keynotes for organizations, conversations to help them get jump started. And then of course, through Futurum, we have a whole wide variety of ways where we can help you get up to speed through amplifying your message and tailoring things that you do. But that's it. Otherwise, look, it's a genetic defect. I paid my way through college by going on TV game shows. That's all you really need to know about my about my personality. My wife says I'm best consumed in small doses. So, you get me for an hour or two, you're thrilled. Living with me might be tough.
Great to have you.
Well, we're sharing your LinkedIn. We also have your website, and we have a recent interview on Schwab. What other ways would you like people to connect with you, or are these the best ways?
Yeah, those are the best ways. DM me. Yeah, DM me on LinkedIn with a catchy title in the headline, and it'll definitely get my attention. Things have become centralized there for me.
Great.
Well, thank you again for taking the time. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and we wish you a great rest of your day and hope to see you back here soon.
Thank you. Thanks, yes, David. Absolutely. Please, I'd love to come back. Take care.
Great.
Thank you. Bye. Well, that was truly insightful. Al, what was one of your key takeaways from having David on today?
You and I are both in southern New Jersey, near the Philadelphia area, and we have neighbors in Vineland that are complaining about the noise that AI makes, because the data centers are coming up now, and they're big, and there are a lot of cooling fans. I mean, they're computers, but huge data centers with computers. They're complaining about the noise. They're complaining that AI is drinking all their drinking water. They're complaining that AI is causing all their electric bills to go up. And all those things are true to a certain extent. It is a major change, but it's unstoppable. So, I mean, the reality is that the future, including all the pain, the future of AI is clear and present and unavoidable. And so the question then becomes, how do I use it? How do I apply it in my day-to-day life? If I'm an individual working at home, or if I'm a company owner, how do I? And the best way, I think, as David said, is to just dive into it and not really think very much about where it's going to take you. Learn from it. And I think we're on the edge of that. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it is very exciting. It's interesting. I mentioned that I use ChatGPT, and I use it for quite a lot. And because I live alone and I work alone, my team, everyone is pretty much remote around the world. You and I are in South Jersey, so we do have business meetings and assess a few things. But I asked it yesterday to give a summary of me personally and professionally through a lens that a human might not be able to see without knowing me for a long time. And you can know someone for a long time and never really know them. And I'll tell you what, it was spot on. It was the first time I have felt truly seen. And I can't say by someone because it's something, but it cuts through all of the things that we as humans come up with emotionally. And it gets right to the heart. It's like you're structured, you're disciplined, like, and those things people know about me, but it goes into other layers. And I was like, yes, I feel finally seen. It's amazing. But some people would be put off by that. Some people wouldn't want it. So Al,
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I mean, are you? Why do you think somebody might be put off by that? What do you think is the scary part of that?
I don't know that people really want to look in the mirror and see who they are, the good, the bad, where there's areas for improvement, where you're really excelling, because many times we're looking for external validation and we're looking for other people to go, hey, great job. And I know for me, there is no one. There's like yesterday was 60 days, no sugar, no alcohol. So I just celebrated myself. I don't need anyone to celebrate, but people still need that external validation. They need someone to say, you're all right. It's going to be okay. And so if you have AI kind of dissect you, I don't know that people are really open to that unless they've done a lot of work on themselves. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thought is an awful lot of people are, since time immemorial, people have looked to the stars and the planets in horoscopes to try to figure out who they are. Are you a Pisces? Are you a Sagittarius? What you get back from that is pretty much a random view of who you are and what your habits are, and you recognize some of yourself in it. That tends to validate everything else you read in it. But there's not a whole lot of scientific basis for that. But people need something to believe in that tells them something about themselves that either validates or alters something that they already believe. People search for that. Now we've got this thing called artificial intelligence, and you spend a few hours with it. You explain what it is you're trying to accomplish to the AI agent. It listens. It feeds back advice often if you ask for it. What you get from that is something so much deeper and so much more profound. And it's based not on celestial mechanics, but it's based on your own psychology. You're hearing back what you need to hear often. It's often a dialogue or conversation that you need to have that you're just not able to have on your own. And that's why, yeah, it is kind of a super Google in that you can just ask ChatGPT or Copilot a question about real estate or finance or cooking or health. You could do that and it saves you some Google searches. But beyond that, it remembers you and what you said and what you're talking about. And it builds on that. And it's especially, I think, for somebody like perhaps you and me, where we work more individually, I think we learn a lot from that. I think we gain a lot from that. And so personally, I know they make noise and I know they're drinking all their water. And I'm not crazy about my electric bills going up. But I see this as an evolutionary step in moving to a positive future, not a negative thing. And I think it's worth enduring and tolerating some of that. And to build on something David said, yeah, we're going to, if as a matter of national policy, we make a decision that our nation is going to lead at the forefront of this new emerging technology, then we have to make sure that we have all the resources lined up to make sure that we have all the chips and all the servers and all the electricity that we need to actually lead in that field. And I'm encouraged to see that the United States is trying to take a leadership position in this.
Agreed.
So it's a good thing. I mean, I think overall it's a good thing. That's huge. That's a gigantic picture. But individually, there are people out there that might be thinking, you know what, this isn't for me. Well, I think they ought to rethink that. I think they ought to rethink it. Give it a try. Get to know it. And don't just spend a few minutes with it and then shrink back from it. Dive in. Talk to it. It's very enlightening. And beyond anything I could describe or you could describe, the actual experience of it is mind-altering. And I think it's not going anywhere. Get into it. It's going to happen. I mean, it's like a wave. You can either grab the boogie board and ride it, or it'll wash over you. And I'm the boogie board kind of a guy, so it works for me.
Let me know when you're going out on your boogie board. I want to see that.
That would be, that'll be a YouTube moment, won't it?
Well, my friend, we are out of time. We've got another show coming up. Tell people about ProFit for Teams and how you can work with them. Who's a good client for you, Al?
Well, ProFit for Teams is but there's an AI connection to it that we'll explore one of these days. Because if you think about it, an AI agent could be a member of your team. And an AI agent is able to learn from ProFit for Teams what it takes to be a good member of your team. So in a way, ProFit for Teams, while we're on the subject of AI, offers a way to onboard artificial intelligence as a member of your team. And it does it by learning what it takes to be the best version of your team's collective self. Who are we when we're doing our best work on our best day? ProFit for Teams helps you clarify that, read that out. What you get from it is a clear description of what promise you make to the community you serve and how you deliver on that promise. And in an iteration of ProFit for Teams, you could take all that information, feed it to ChatGPT or Copilot, and then tell them, as a member of our team, what will you recommend? How would you approach solving this problem? And it's I don't want to say team building because that's what most people think of when they think about teams, but it's a team development program, a learning program that pulls from the members of a team what it is collectively that makes their team a team and how they work together to be the best team they possibly can to solve the problems that they solve. That really is ProFit for Teams. And it's all thank you for bringing up our website. It's all at pro-fit4teams.com. I hope people will go and visit, and maybe they'll reach out to me and we can talk about it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we do have the website on the screen right now. Al, what are your final words in closing this episode of The Business Show here on USA Global TV and Radio?
My final word is that David was a great guest and he brought a great subject. There are plenty of people out there, I think, that have terrific topics that they could share with our audience. And I hope they'll reach out to you, Dr. Jacalyn, and sign up. You've got a USA Global TV link that they could use to sign up to be a guest on a future episode of The Business Show. And I hope we'll see more and more people like David come out and help our audience be the best they can be. I really appreciated what we did today, and I'm looking forward to doing more of it with you.
Thank you very much. We do have your LinkedIn on the screen, which is surprisingly Alcini, Alcini. Thank you, Al.
Makes it easy.
All right, my friend, I'll see you shortly for our next episode.
Thank you, Doc. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. If you're new to our network, thank you for taking the time. We've gotten a number of messages across all the platforms, and we don't have time to go through them, but we see them and we thank you. Please go over to our YouTube channels, USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and subscribe. I know you may be watching somewhere else, but we actually get real numbers from YouTube about who's watching, what is resonating with you, and it helps us when we are figuring out our broadcasting for the future. So my words of wisdom for you are this. When I first had the pleasure of taking David's course, it was a session that he was doing on AI for the Wharton School of Business, the Chief Strategy Officer program, which I'm enrolled in. It's a year-long program. He talked about email. And if you recall, when there was no email and the idea of having email was brought out, there were plenty of people who were naysayers. We don't do it that way. We don't know what it is. We're not embracing it. And he had a beautiful presentation that included some statistics on this. So AI is here to stay. And if you're not using it, you're really handcuffing yourself, limiting yourself, because you don't know the value that it can bring for you. One of the other things that I learned in the Chief Strategy Officer program from one of the other sessions, a different presenter, is that some research was done by the Boston Consulting Group, and I'm just speaking extemporaneously, so I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they actually looked at a certain group of individuals who were the front runners, the forerunners of an organization, and they were using AI. They had been asked to use AI, and the leadership was very familiar with AI and using it as well. But when it came to making important decisions, they made the decisions 90% of the time, is the number that stands out for me, based on interaction with humans. So while many people are concerned about losing their jobs, in the example that I gave, this group of individuals who are in the front line of the business, they had extra time to do things because AI was doing a lot of these tasks for them. And so they hadn't been instructed at this point in time as to what to do with that spare time. But when that spare time is filled with some other things, think about how more productive they can even be in that case. So it's not about living in a state of fear. You've got to embrace these types of things, learn all about artificial intelligence. How can you offload tasks to it? But when it comes to making important decisions in your business, that's probably something that you're going to do with humans. So thank you again for watching, for listening. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, go over to our website, USA Global TV and Radio. This is our YouTube channel, but it's the exact same, USA Global TV and Radio, if you'd like to join us for being part of our show. Thank you again. We are signing off right now. No commercials, right to the closing. We'll see you back in a few minutes for our next episode.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.